evening, viewers. Welcome to another episode of your show towards a blissful union. Thanks for joining us today. Today on the show, we have for you a very seasoned and experienced guest in relationship and marriage in the person of Dr. Kunle Oladapo. Dr. Kunle Oladapo is a seasoned teacher, both secularly and in the body of Christ. He is a relationship coach and a marriage counselor. His unique style of teaching combines deep insight, simple presentation with a good sense of humor. His learn and laugh approach endears him to the hearts of the singles and married to whom he has been sent. Dr. Kunle Oladapo, also known as Dr. Mixwealth, is the president and founder of Mixwealth Singles and Married Ministries and the host of Singles and Married Live Conferences. He is also the pioneer of Singles Redefined and Marriage Redefined WhatsApp groups for singles and married, respectively. He is a PhD holder in radiation and health physics and lectures in one of the universities in Nigeria. He is also a sought after in singles and marriage conferences. He is married and blessed with 3 lovely children. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you very much for having me this moment.
So we know that you're more than qualified to handle this case for us. The topic of today, abuse in relationship and marriage. It is actually a case, a serious case in relationship and marriage in the society right now.
Yeah, very right.
So today on the show, Dr. Kunle Oladapo will be handling the topic of abuse in relationship and marriage for us. We know that this is a menace in the society right now, and he's going to do justice to the reasons behind abuse and the solution for the person being abused and the abuser himself or herself. So because we know it can swing both ways. Men abuse, women also abuse. So let's go into this discussion. So Dr. Kunle, welcome to the show again.
Thank you once again.
So why do people abuse? Why do people abuse? Because sometimes I don't get it. I get confused, You claim to love someone, you get married to them, and then you start to eat them. Sometimes it could be verbal. You start to abuse them, make them feel less of a human being, verbally, emotionally, psychologically, in different types of ways. People abuse their partners, they abuse people they are in relationship whom they claim to love. It's confusing. Could it be a genetic factor? Could it be an environmental factor? Could it be a psychological problem? Please shed light on this topic, sir.
Thank you very much. The issue of abuse is very complex. Let me put it that way. Because the word abuse itself, when you say abuse, the word abuse itself is from the 2 words, abnormal use. So it's not a normal situation, it's an abnormal situation. Because just like you said, in a relationship, someone that you claim you love, somebody that you have displayed a lot of affection for, then you are abusing that person. So it's really a broad and complex topic. But however, just like the question you asked, there's no single cause of abuse, but there are a lot of factors that can make somebody to abuse your partner or somebody you claim you love. Now, one of the factor is background. A lot of people, when I say background, I mean somebody that has a background of abuse, whether as a victim or as a witness. There's a probability that your life has been molded in such a way to believe that sometimes the only way to get what you need is through violence. So maybe somebody that watched his or her mother being beaten, being battered, there's a tendency for you to think that is the way to exercise control. And before you know it, you grow. We are all products of our background.
Exactly.
Sometimes, even subtly, you don't know that you have picked a lot of things from your background. Another thing, okay, for example, look at some homes. I remember growing up in those days, we are always within the fence. You cannot go out. And you see, from upstairs, we see other children playing around. Their parents are not even there. So sometimes some of these children grow up in that environment where they face me, I face you, they see combat, verbal combat at every point in time. They grow up, and before they know it, they start to think the only way to exercise control, to be in charge, is by verbal abuse. So a lot of factors like that. Sometimes it could even be substance abuse. A lot of people that abuse substance, you know, you are under the influence of substance, maybe you drink or whatever. The tendency to abuse is very great. So when we look at it, it has to do with a lot of factors being put together that makes psychologically too. There are some people, all they need is they want to be in charge. And the only way they think they could be in charge is to ensure that psychologically this person obeys me. And before you know it, because when we talk of abuse, people usually think of physical abuse. But there are also other type of abuse: emotional abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, and even financial. So a lot of people, because of their psychology to be in charge, they want to put in some rules and regulations. And once you don't obey it, they go out of hands. So there are a lot of factors that could cause somebody to abuse.
So the basic idea for an abuser is to subdue.
Yes, to be in charge.
To control and subdue the person. Yes. So whatever they need to do, even if it's verbal or physical, just to make the person, you know, to make the person subject to them, authority, under their control. So that is the wow.
That's the basic behind control. Behind abuse.
Abuse. Thank you so much, sir, for shedding light on that aspect of, you know, the reasons for abuse, and you know, why would somebody want to abuse another person. So it's basically a control issue. The person wants to subdue the person, make him or her obey them at all cost. So I've had a situation where, like, I can remember vividly when I was serving. I was in my national youth service. So we were talking with some group of other ladies. So one of the ladies told me, we were sharing experiences in our relationships and all that. So one of the ladies told me, she's been in courtship with one guy, that the guy really loves me, or he buys a lot of things for me. But sometimes when he gets angry, he beats me, and then he will tell me sorry, and I love him. I don't want to leave him, but I think he really loves me. He's always so sorry. Sometimes he even cries when he's begging me and all that. So I was I was shocked. Like, how can somebody be eating you and you are still in this relationship and you are still claiming that this person loves you? He buys you gifts, he does all this, that sometimes he just can't help himself. Sometimes maybe, you know, you were the one that did something that annoyed him sometimes, and then he apologizes and he claims he will say he will not do it again, and then later something happens, and then and some people will, you know, see some of these things, these signs, and then still go into marriage with this kind. Please advise our singles out there. You know, this case, I'm sure, is a very glaring is a very glaring sign that this is not a relationship that should go into marriage, except the person really repents or finds help, except the partner, the abuser. But there are some relationships that you know, it might not be that glaring, that this person is a potential abuser. So what are the signs that a person in a relationship you're in a relationship with is a potential abuser when you get into a marriage with them?
Okay, thank you very much. I like the scenario you painted earlier, and I must tell you, these issues are rampant these days. A lot of them. You see, a lot of people, sometimes it look as if these ladies focus so much on what they receive than their own life. Take, for example, there was a situation like that she was even married. It was after marriage that all these things was revealed. Less than 2 months after marriage, the husband beat her, In fact, he came to the pastor beaten, battered, and plastered. She was looking like Spider-Man. And when the pastor was trying to understand, why will somebody, I thought he said he's born again. He said, yes, he's a leader in his church and things like that. Then it took the pastor to actually begin to ask, okay, let me understand this. While you were in courtship, had he at any time laid his hand on you? He said about 2 or 3 times, but he apologized. He said he was sorry. He doesn't know what came on him. Said, but did you confirm that thing that used to come on him has stopped coming before you married him?
That's the popular slogan. I don't know what came over me.
And she was like, no. So that brings us back to the issue of signs, signals. This is what I call warning signals, red flags to look out for. You see, if somebody, let's even look at a scenario in which the person has not displayed any form of abuse. When somebody is overprotective or is all around you, he wants to know what you do part-time, he wants to know which people are you going out with, he calls you, where are you now, what are you doing, all those stuff are a signal that shows that this is a potential abuser.
That this person is controlling.
Yes, this is potential. This is somebody that wants to, even when you are married, everybody still have their space. The fact that you are in courtship or you are married does not mean your partner should not give you space to operate. But when somebody is overprotective, when somebody is always like, where are you, what are you doing, that is a signal that the person is likely to be an abuser. Okay? Is likely to be an abuser. Sometimes also when you discover that your partner is very jealous, he doesn't want to see you with the opposite sex. You are not even married, for crying out loud. He doesn't want to see you with the opposite sex. Want to know who is he, where does he come from, and all those stuff. These are examples of somebody that may abuse in the future. Another thing is history. Because just like I mentioned the other time, background matters a lot. If somebody has been abused over time, there's a tendency that that person has built within himself a kind of range that it contains within him. Sometimes it's possible that the abuser to that person, it cannot more be found, but it's still in him. Sometimes it only takes God to take that thing away. So any opportunity they see, they want to exercise. I don't know if you have seen this film before, October 1st by Tunde Afolayan.
Yes.
These 2 young men had the opportunity to get education from the white people, and the white man was molesting them. One of them could not take it anymore, pull out of school, but never told anyone the reason. But still within him, there was that to revenge. And one day when he got the opportunity, he sneaked into the white man's room and murdered him. The other one endured the abuse up to university level. And when he came back, he started revenging on young virgins in the land. So that's why I said abuse case is a very complex one. So some people that have history of abuse, there's a tendency they begin to manifest it, especially when they are under stress or pressure. So they tend to want to display such abusive behavior. So all these factors, when you see such thing in a courtship, is a no-no. A lot of people, they still want to play around. I was telling a young lady who was telling me that the fiancé laid hands on him, and I said, I still want to continue that relationship. There's fire on the mountain. You need to run. Because I've come to discover that the way people treat you in courtship is not the way they treat you in marriage. Even those that have been treated badly in courtship, I can say that they have been treated fairly compared to the way they will treat them in marriage.
Exactly.
So that's why it's good to watch out for warning signals. There are signals to say you can't travel with this man, you can't travel with this woman. So all those factors, all those things can trigger abuse. You may not have seen any traces of this in that person, but when issues like that come out, then you see them in their true color. So when issues like that arise, you need to reappraise that decision in order to be able to move forward in a safety way.
Would you do you suggest that a partner, some people do like testing, like when you create some situations where you want to see how this person will react, or when you deliberately behave in a way, to trigger maybe, an annoying way, to trigger anger or something in that person, to see what is the worst they can do or how this person will react in this situation. Is that okay? As in when you are still in a courtship,
I get your point.
Create some scenarios to see their reaction.
I prefer for situation like that to come naturally.
Okay.
It's always good when they come naturally for you to. What is courtship period meant for? Is for you to discover this person as day passes by. So during that time, there would have been issues that would trigger up something. But when you create them yourself, you see, there's this Newton third law of motion that says to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sometimes when you create scenes, yes, you will still see the person's reaction, but it may not be genuine. It may not really come from where it's supposed to come from. So I always prefer that, and that's why courtship should have a length. It's not just like I like you, you like me, can we marry? Yes, tomorrow? No. But there's a period of courtship. Courtship is a period between the time you say yes and the time you will say yes, I do. During that time, you will go out together, you will do things together, you will see a lot of situations. That's why it's good to always be alert. Be alert and be aware as you go on in the. Even sometimes it doesn't even need to. I recall a particular person who has been in courtship for almost 4 years, and they were about accumulating into. It was at the tail end that they discovered that this guy lies. He will pick up a call, and before you know, he's already saying, "I'm in Jos" when he's in Lagos. And little signals like that are enough. I see a lot of people like that, even all these people that do skit, they want to do situation to find out whether it's even possible that the person may catch a glimpse of the fact that he's cooked up, and he will flow along. And you want to say, oh, he's a good man, he's a good woman. And at the end of the day, it is not.
Thank you so much. Viewers, I hope you're learning a lot from what Dr. Kunle has been sharing with us on the show. We go for a break now. After this break, there's more to come. Please stay with us. Welcome back from the break. So, we have been discussing abuse with Dr. Kunle Oladapo. He has said a lot of things about abuse, the reason and the motives for abuse, and also about the warning signs of an abuser in relationship, especially during courtship before it gets to the stage of marriage. Now we want to talk about the solution to the problem for the abuser and the abused. Thank you so much, sir, for shedding light on this case, this menace that is in the society right now. So we want to talk about the solution. How can someone, defend themselves against an abuser without being violent?
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, once you discover that your partner or somebody that you are in relationship with is an abuser, you need to defend yourself. You need to defend yourself. Because the abuse, the consequences of the abuse is going to tell on you. So as much as possible, you need to defend yourself. Number one way by which you need to defend yourself is that you must be aware. You must be sensitive to know that, especially for people who have gone through that type of abuse before from the same person. You need to be aware of what triggers it, the mood, the behavior of the person before the abuse comes. Once you see the cycle moving again, you need to, as much as possible, take yourself away from that scene. Take, for example, maybe usually it's argument that leads to such abuse.
Yes.
Once you know that something is already going in that process,
the conversation,
the conversation is already leading to
getting
that,
heated up.
you pull away from there. So that's why I said you need to be very, very aware, must be sensitive of the situation. Okay, that's number one. So another way by which you can, you see, because abuse is not only physical. Sometimes, if it's a verbal abuse, somebody tells you cannot amount to anything, somebody degrades you with his words. Apart from pulling yourself away from that environment, you need to also go and reassure yourself. I'm not what this person says I am. I'm better than this. I'm this and that. Talk to yourself. Be confident. I don't know whether it has happened to anyone before. You go in front of a mirror and you reassure yourself. I'm not a failure. You strengthen your inner man, such that another time when such thing happens, it doesn't get to you. Because each time you're always helping yourself by making sure that you make yourself understand who you are.
Positive affirmations.
Yes, positive affirmation. And in some instance, you may need to run away. Let's tell ourselves the truth. One Chinese adage says, of all the 10 alternatives, running away is still the best. Yes. Sometimes you need to run away. When I say run away, I'm not really talking about literal. Get out of sight from that person. You see, I've come to discover that abusers cannot abuse themselves. They need an instrument. And when they don't have it, the issue of abuse does not come up.
You need an object.
Yes, they need an object. So, as much as possible, take yourself away from such situation. Then also, you need also to be very bold. Somebody has been abusing you and you are like, if it happens again, I will report to the police. Or I will tell this person. You see, some of those people, they like doing this thing in secret. They don't want anybody to hear. Sometimes the reason why they will repeat it over and over again is because it's still a secret. So one way by which you can defend yourself is to speak out. Is to let other people know this is what I've been going through. A lot of people don't want to do that because of shame. We saw a scenario sometimes ago in the body of Christ where it was after the death of that woman that we're hearing a lot of things. If she has spoken out, maybe she'll still be alive now. Then you can also seek counsel. Let people that have experience be able to tell you this and this and this are the things you should do. Okay? And you see, just like we have been saying, it's not only people like this that need counsel, even the abuser themselves. They do. So these are some of the things you need to put in place in order to defend yourself. Don't keep it a secret. Then when you see another point, when you see the trend, and you discover that this person does not even acknowledge that he's doing something wrong to you, then you should make sure there is no more a secret. Let other people, bring other people in, whether he likes it or not. When other people comes in, anytime he wants to do it again, he will remember. So these are some of the things I believe are ways by which somebody can defend themselves without being violent.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kunle, for explaining to us how someone who is being abused can get help. But sometimes the abusers themselves, they need help. Sometimes they're truly remorseful for what they do, but it's like a habit that is very hard to break for them. So how can these abusers, how can they get help to stop this act?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I'm glad that you got to this. The abusers also need help, no doubt. But before you can help an abuser, two things must happen. Number one is that the abuser must acknowledge that he's doing the wrong thing. Okay? He must acknowledge that he must also be ready and willing to seek for help. When those two things are in place, it becomes very easy. You see, it is only in this side of the country that we are not used to some of these things. There are a lot of programs out there that can help an abuser, kind of like a rehabilitation program, education, counseling, and a lot of things. And it is during this period that the abuser will come to know that sometimes it's not because you want to abuse, but because of some things you have picked along the line while you were growing up.
Environmental.
Yes.
Background.
So it makes it easy for them to be able to say, okay,
this is the reason.
so it's not because I'm bad. So they begin to come to terms to understand some certain things. So there are programs like that that helps people to rediscover themselves and be able to know what they can do. Okay? Another thing is taking responsibility. Every time we make a choice in life, there are always consequences. And you must own up to the consequence. You must be able to say, I received these consequences because of my action. So when people like that take responsibility for their action, then they are ready to change. Then they must seek counsel also, so that the counselor will help them, or therapist. That's another thing that is not so much embraced in this side. Therapist, their duty is to heal you over time. Over time. I was taking somebody through a character therapy, and the person after 3 months called me over the phone and started crying. I've done it again. I said, 3 months? You have done it again. Progress. That is progress.
Yeah, for it to have taken 3 months. Maybe it was more frequent than that.
I said that is progress. And it was at that point that the person was like, really? Progress. And we started talking again. So, a lot of them, they know that there's a monster in them. They don't know how to handle them. But when they seek counsel, when people are able to put them through, it's not really you. But you need to understand this and this. There's this tendency in you for control. You have to work towards it. Then character change also is another thing. It's not as easy as it sounds. But when you discover that you carry some negative character that pushes you to abuse fellow human being, then you begin to, like somebody that you were saying, it has become an habit, and so they are helpless. What is an habit? An habit is something you do and do and do until that thing starts doing you. If you must stop it, you have to undo until it's erased completely from your life. So it takes a process, but the abuser must own up, acknowledge, ready to seek help. Then therapies, people can help him discover the fact that it's not as though you are bad, but there are some certain things that are controlling your life. And when we do that, it becomes a win-win situation.
Fantastic. So you've heard it from Dr. Kunle Oladapo. I think, need I say more? He has said a lot of things that can help us in our relationships when it comes to abuse. If you are being abused or if you are the abuser, you can take 1 or 2 points from this and help yourselves. So hold on as we go on a break before we call it a wrap on the show. Thank you, viewers, for joining us on the show today. We've been talking with Dr. Kunle Oladapo, who has shed so much light on abuse in relationships. Earlier on the show, he talked about the reasons for abuse. He talked about the motives of an abuser. And he also talked about the warning signs of abuse in a relationship. For singles, I think that's a very, very important part of the show for you. Please have your eyes open. They say love is blind, but marriage is an eye opener. Have your eyes widely opened when you're in a relationship, especially during courtship, before you get into marriage with someone. So he has also talked about how to get help and how to seek help if you are in an abusive relationship and if you are the abuser. You can never know what you get to find out when you go for counseling. It can help you break that habit. Thank you so much, Dr. Kunle, for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. So from our partners, we have this from Kellogg's. So we want you to enjoy this Kellogg's
Thank you
with your
very much.
family
Thank you
when you
so
get
much.
home. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
So on the show today, we call it a wrap. Hope you've had a good time watching the show. Please join us again next week for another interesting episode of your show towards a blissful union. My name is Adeola Dada. Thanks for having me. Bye for now.